So, yes, I think there is an opportunity. Question is, how much? So if you've got a $50,000 super balance, how much of that do you want to allocate to trying to promote the good? And if you do, what does that look like? Because most good investments become normal investments if they deliver market returns. It's the ones that don't deliver market returns that need the greatest support. And affordable housing is a really good example that without some form of support, much of which comes through the planning system in terms of extra floor spaces and better planning consents, and some of it comes through government grants. But it's very difficult to go, well, I'm going to allocate, say, 5,000 of my 50,000 and I want this to go to a specific impact project. Very hard to do that. There are a handful of funds who will claim to do that, but when you scratch the surface, it does often look like a very small percentage of the fund. Verve Super, perfectly good example here. They're dressed up. That's a fairly broad-based, largely index fund. Most of the money is invested in either FAIR or ETHI, and a handful in small funds that do things like affordable housing. And their great contribution to closing the female super gap is they'll waive your $1.50 admin fee while you're on maternity leave. That, to me, is greenwashing. So, great question, Sarah. That's a tough question. If you have a lot of time and a lot of money, a self-managed super fund could help you get there. But as Phil suggested, maybe the better good is through your spending and your philanthropic efforts, and doubling down on that whilst focusing on generating market risk-adjusted returns in your investments, which gives you more money to invest in those things. Of course, there's no right answer for everybody. That's a tough question to answer.
Yeah, and it's also just trying to do yourself on a personal level what you can, in terms of transportation that you use, the clothes that you wear, the food that you eat. You can make as much difference, you might be only one person, but if enough people get together and act in the same way, you don't have to do it through investing. You can just do it through your own personal lifestyle, For me, it's important about animals, like I'm not a complete vegetarian or vegan, but I tend not to eat that much meat just because I feel bad about the animals, so you just do, all of us do what we can do, I think, and we're all fallible humans.
We are. So from a Life Shepherd perspective, we donate a portion of our output. That is, we give a number of our philanthropic partners free access to the Life Shepherd advice product. So if you're a Black Dog employee, for example, you get our services for free. And that's a not-for-profit, which looks after mental health, very closely aligned with financial wellness. That money is one of the biggest causes of mental issues, stress in Australia among 45-year-olds. So there's a perfect alignment of mission here. So we look to partner with not-for-profits to do that. We do pro bono advice through the industry associations, and we recently bid on a financial literacy grant program from the federal government. So there's lots of ways we can do this, and each of us has something to offer. I think the challenge is to identify what your special offer is. Sometimes that's money, sometimes it's time, and sometimes it's public support. So we're coming up on an hour. Did you want to add anything, Phil? Your travels with fund managers?
Not really, just beware of the finance industry. I think that's what I come up with. But then generally, most of these fund managers are really nice people as well and are just trying to do the right thing for their clients. As far as I can see, there's very few absolutely evil people in this part of the world. But again, I think just do what you can yourself, and with your investing, just be very, very careful with it, because you just don't want your money to go into someone else's pocket for the wrong reasons. And again, join the Australian Shareholders Association, allocate your proxies if you have any direct share investments. And it's also a great exercise reading what the company monitors are saying, because that gives an incredible insight into each of these companies as well. So you actually do really understand what's going on there, because often on the face of it, it's very difficult to dig in and see what a company is actually doing unless you've got someone who's meeting with the CEO and the chair to talk about these things.
Yeah. And membership is quite cheap, Phil, isn't it?
Yeah, it's $140 a year. That's nothing. And there's plenty of great value that you can be had out of that.